Hello and welcome. This is Gist Nigeria. Coming up on the program, child defilement. We look at how the culture of silence makes justice elusive for victims. Also, tackling teenage pregnancies. Sierra Leonean schoolgirl teaches sex education on radio. And alternative transportation. Nigerian startup develops app for hailing bicycles. Plus,
my name is Abayomi Oladini. Check me out.
The fitness experts using technology and exercise routines to improve wellness. Welcome to Gist Nigeria from the BBC and Channels Television. And here on the show, we keep an eye on the stories making the rounds on social media. I am Wale Fakile. Let's start with our top story. Nigeria, like other countries of the world, is struggling with how best to protect children from the claws of predators who willfully abuse their innocence and honor. Cases of child defilement are disturbingly on the rise, and no gender is spared. Though there are laws protecting children against abuse in Nigeria, pedophiles still continue to hunt for who to abuse. In this report, Gist Nigeria's Ajoka Ulodse tells the story of a widow trying to get justice for her abused child. Have a look.
A stolen innocence, a snatched cradle, a broken childhood. The Nigerian child may have become a statistic in sexual abuse cases. It rarely matters what gender they belong. The abusers are scarcely ever far away. Child defilement cases have been on the rise in Nigeria. According to UNICEF, 1 in 4 girls and 10% of boys have been victims of reported sexual violence. When it happens, families of survivors are often bound by a code of silence that seeks to protect the assaulter over the victim. Victims of defilement are still stigmatized in Nigeria, with some parents of survivors preferring to stay anonymous. Priscilla is a widow and a mother trying to take care of 3 children. 5 years ago, she discovered that her 12-year-old daughter Sarah was pregnant after being repeatedly defiled by their neighbor.
She said that the man told her that if she told me, that he would slaughter her and slaughter me. Many people, even the committee, they came to beg. I said, the matter is not my matter. They now decided to go court. They now told me that I should not go to court so that they will strike the matter.
A wheel of justice turning so slow and grinding nothing means perpetrators are emboldened and continue to walk free. 5 years after, Priscilla is still in search of justice for her daughter, even as she struggles to care for the child given birth to by another child. The Nigerian society encourages a quick settlement of defilement cases. The intent is often to prevent the stigmatization of the defiled child, but survivors are left to bear the heavy psychological burden of this form of silence. Moyi Kalu was defiled as a kid by an uncle. She reveals that she was left alone to bear the brunt of the actions of the man who violated her after her family settled with him.
I didn't even want to tell my foster dad because I felt if I said anything, they could blame me. I could be part of the, maybe I encouraged him in one way or the other. I told him about it, and yes, there was the initial anger towards the uncle who had assaulted me, but I felt it wasn't enough because I was told and asked to forgive him and forget and see him as a brother.
The damage from the silence is made worse by a lack of psychological care for survivors. Oftentimes, they just never recover.
Sometimes I sit back and I remember it, I think about it, and I ask myself what would have happened if I had been able, if he had taken me to, a counselor, a therapy or something.
Eradicating child defilement totally may be a tall dream, but stopping the conspiracy of silence that empowers perpetrators is achievable if the wheel of justice turns a little faster.
No child should be abused. Still on this topic, Ajoke sits down with a panel of experts to understand what you can do to protect your children, and in case of an abuse, what you need to do to get justice and the help available for an abused child. Over to you, Ajoke.
Thank you, Wale. Now, the spate of child defilement by pedophiles has become very worrisome and cause for serious concern. Joining me to examine these subjects and explore ways to protect our children are Dr. Nimi Ekere, a family physician, child advocate, and founder Smile and Shine Children Foundation, an NGO that deals with child sexual abuse. Thanks for joining us, Dr. Nimi.
Thank you very much.
Also with me in the studio is Ganiya Olokodano, clinical psychologist and family therapist. Thank you, Ganiya, for coming. And joining us on Zoom is Barrister Taiwo Akinlami, a lawyer, child rights advocate, and co-founder Safe for Children Society. Thanks for joining us, Barrister.
Thank you for having me.
So let's just get right into it. Sexual abuse on children, how prevalent? Dr. Nimi, your NGO, addresses issues around this.
Thank you very much. Child sexual abuse is very common. The prevalence is rising so high, and the bad thing to it, or the other side to it, is that the documentation is very poor. So statistics are hazy. In 2015, UNICEF gave us their findings, and it said that 1 in 4 girls and 1 in 10 boys are abused before the age of 18. And this, like you know, is a long time. We know that this is rising by the minute. I see a lot of cases. We see a lot of cases in my foundation. It's sad. And it's pathetic to know that we don't have figures to this menace right now.
The boy child is often neglected when it comes to, reporting, child sexual abuse. Would you say that a significant number of boy children are duly affected?
Well, when you look at that same report on violence against children, in child sexual abuse within the school system, it is stated that more boys are sexually molested within the school system than girls. Over 24% of boys are sexually molested within the school system, and 15.1% of girls. So that report makes it abundantly clear that more boys are sexually molested, particularly within the school system. And this is the problem. The attention to the boy-child sexual molestation or sexual abuse or sexual assault is completely underreported, and it is important that we continue to call attention to this so that we can understand and begin to find solutions.
So I'm going to go to Ganiya now. Let's look at how society deals with these issues when these things eventually happen. Let's look at how parents, guardians, and even society, the larger society, deals with it, particularly with the conspiracy of silence.
Unfortunately, I would say that society, parents, even government and enforcers, all of us, we have kind of failed our children. Even when our children tell us about these things, or they are trying to tell us, we hush them down, we tell them to keep quiet. So for the victim or the survivor, as the case may be, it's like a double assault, which usually would make the psychological effects last for much longer. And we know how impactful those effects can be in the life of such people as they grow up, and how it affects their relationships and basically every aspect of their life.
I think we need to look at the cause, because there's a reason behind every societal behavior. Yeah. Now, one of the first things is that if there is no justice, and I'm sure when I speak up, nothing is going to happen. Why do I speak up? 2, if I'm going to be stigmatized for speaking up, why do I speak up? If at the end of the day, the situation, the case of the person whom I'm speaking out for is going to be worse. Now, how many times have we come out to shout about a child sexual abuse matter? What becomes of it?
This issue of silence, the stigma, it's sickening to see that the child, the victim, is the one being blamed, and the perpetrator moves freely, committing more atrocities. We should tackle this until it's nipped in the bud. We'll have a generation of deviant, sad, depressed children that are ready to unleash their mayhem. They are ready to cause maybe a reprisal attack.
The cycle
yes, it continues cycle of abuse. So we have to do something about it.
Let's talk about access to justice for children when these things eventually happen. You are a lawyer. Tell us what it's like.
An average Nigerian child is an orphan because there's nothing that accrues to the Nigerian child from its own government. We have become a beggarly. When you see a nation committing the destiny of their children to donor agencies, you know that there's a problem. Who does America commit their own children to? Who does UK commit their own children to? So Nigeria does not have any plan for the children. That's why 13.5 million of them are out of school. Now, see. So this is it. In 2003, we promulgated the Child Rights Act.
Exactly.
We said that it must be promulgated in other states. 25 states are promulgated as of today. Now, in that 2003 Child Rights Act, the law says there must be a specialized police unit which must cater for children's matter. We've promulgated that law 18 years now. As of today, such unit does not exist uniformly named across the nation.
I know that, access to justice, I know that justice itself can bring some form of reprieve to survivors of child sexual abuse. But then, how about the wholesome psychological care that survivors must indeed get? How important would you say it is?
The first thing we need to do, if there is any physical evidence that can be gathered for the medical personnel to do, then alongside that, we are giving them that very important psychological care to help them deal with the trauma. Because long after the physical pain, bruises, have gone, have disappeared, the psychological trauma of what they have gone through would most likely linger on.
Now, half the time when this happens, people tend to want to bat the child and destroy evidence. And I know that, Dr. Akinlami, Barrister Akinlami, who is a lawyer, would say that half the time also the lack of evidence could also affect access to justice. Negatively. So what are some of the things that you think parents should be doing when these things happen? We don't pray that it happens, but when it happens.
As much as possible, the child shouldn't have a bath, and the parent should ensure that the child is taken to the hospital and police station actually, and then you make your report and then you go to the hospital. But right now there are NGOs that are in charge of this, and then from there the child will be examined and given some medications, which include the child will be screened for some diseases and then given prophylactic HIV medications, pregnancy, pregnancy pills, emergency pregnancy pills if it's a lady, or if it's female, rather, she's female, and then the child will be given some vaccines just to prevent some diseases, consequences. STIs will be managed, and after that the child will be reassured, and of course antibiotics if there are bruises. There's just a whole lot the child is battling with.
Most certainly there has to be a way forward. There has to be a way we can go about protecting our children. Dr. Nimi, you see these children, you see how lack of justice can affect them. What should we be doing? How can we be dealing with it? How do we make the best of a bad situation?
Poverty is an issue in Nigeria. People should begin to speak up. People should begin to be involved. So we shouldn't just look at it and say it's not my business.
In Islam, when children are at the age of 7, we've been encouraged to begin to separate them. This is a form of prevention.
I think that one of the things we need to do, we need to change the education we are giving to our children. You see, for me, I think that we need to revisit the education we are giving our children. We need to advocate for a national policy on sexuality education that is public driven, which private sector will support, contrary to what we have right now. And we need to change the content of the education we are giving to our children, and we need to change the kind of music our children are listening to. Today, we don't want problem. We don't want our children to be sexually molested, but we expose them to all kinds of rubbish music.
I really appreciate your inputs to this conversation. Thank you, Barrister Akinlami. Thank you, Dr. Nimi. Thank you, Ganiya. As a society, we have responsibility to protect our children, regardless of gender, whether it's male or female. And as the world celebrates children this week, this is a call of duty to protect that child, whether it's yours or not. It doesn't matter whether you give birth to the child. It could be your neighbor. It could be your friend's child. It could be anybody. Protect that child, and our society will be better for it. Thank you all so very much. We really appreciate it. Back to you, Ali.
Incisive and eye-opening conversation. Thank you very much, guys. Now, if you have a personal story you would like to share with us on this topic, go to our Twitter handle at @GistNigeria and leave us a comment. We'll be more than glad to read from you. Still ahead on Gist Nigeria. Nigeria's first bicycle hailing app surfaces in Lagos. How does it work? We bring you this story and more after the break. Stay with us.